Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking lessons. But don't worry, when I say lessons, obviously I don't mean the boring type of lessons, like maths or science or history or any of that school shit. No, I mean the good type of lessons, as in the ones that apply to our favoritist video games. And as you all know, my favoritist video game is World of Warcraft, which has a new expansion coming out in 2020, and it's called Shadowlands, and it looks really cool. It's got vampire people with horse-drawn carriages and tombstone back pieces. It looks really cool, and everyone's really excited about it because the current expansion, Battle For Azeroth, was really well received and everyone loved it, and basically all Shadowlands has to do is be like half as good as BfA and we are onto a winner, right? And haha, no, only joking. BfA has had some problems and it makes some mistakes that Shadowlands really needs to not repeat, and I say that as someone who overall pretty much really enjoyed BfA, but I can accept that I don't always speak for the majority of the player base, except if I say, Blizzard, give us playable Tuscar, because then obviously I'm speaking for all of the player base. And so for many of us, Shadowlands has a lot of BfA wrongs to put right, like it's Sam Beckett or something. Yeah, okay, Shadowlands is Dr. Sam Beckett, and I guess Blizzard is Al, and I guess I'm Ziggy, because I'm telling Sam, who is really Shadowlands, what it needs to put right. And yes, this analogy totally works, and these are the 10 BfA mistakes that Shadowlands must not repeat, okay? Go, 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 go. Get rid of Warfronts. Warfronts were a good idea, but didn't really work. I don't think they should be in Shadowlands. Oh, and to the surprise of no one, they're not. Good work, Blizz. This list is going to be easy. Get the release schedule right. Now, this is a great example of learning from not only when you get stuff bad, but when you get stuff right. Remember after the Barren Wasteland, which was the Warlords of Draenor release schedule, where there was like nothing to do for a literal year, and then there was, but it was a selfie cam. Remember after that nonsense, how exciting Legion was with its actual content that would actually be released? And not only that, but it would be released like regularly and in big helpings? How patch 7.1 with Karazhan and a mini raid and loads more Suramar stuff culminating in the Nighthold raid came out just 6 weeks after the expansion launched? That felt great. It felt like we, the player base, were being looked after. It added to the excitement surrounding a cool new expansion, and it helped Legion to ride that hype wave right into the new patch and beyond. That is just the kind of awesome feeling you'd want to replicate going forward, right? You betcha! Which is why when BfA rocked up, patch 8.1 followed hot on its heels just, 12 weeks later. Huh. Yes, not only did BfA's first major patch take twice as long to arrive as its Legion counterpart, but when it finally got here, it didn't have as much stuff. A mini raid to keep you tided over until the new big raid? Nope, you're gonna have to wait till much later for that. A new Mythic mega dungeon? Ha lol, nice try, wait until 8.2, which, by the way, will be a much longer wait than 7.2 was. All in all, BfA has taken 5 months longer to get to patch 8.3 than Legion took to arrive at 7.3, and this is absolutely one of the most important reasons that people have been so down on BfA's content. As an example, Rise of Ashara is like an objectively better patch than Tomb of Sargeras. People forget 7.2 was really bad, but we've been running around Nazjatar and Mechagon for 7 weeks longer than we were the Broken Shore, and with the best will in the world, 6.5 months is too long between major patches. Seriously, imagine if BfA had been running on Legion's schedule. Imagine if Visions of N'Zoth, the patch that is still over 2 weeks away as I record this section, had come out on the 14th of August 2019. Yes, I know, that sounds crazy, but that's what we got in Legion, and quite simply, it was a whole lot more fun. And I like fun. I like content, I like it hard and fast, and that goes for the content too. And yeah, I already know that a lot of the comments are going to be like, no, I'd rather they take their time and get it right. Well, screw that, I'd rather they got it right and delivered it in a timely manner, because both of those things are important in an MMO. So Blizz, when it comes to Shadowlands, let's take our scheduling inspiration from Legion, okay? Let's get back to a deluge of content rather than patches that, yeah, are genuinely good, but that we get sick of because we're abandoned in them for so long. Give it to me hard and fast, Ian, and the content too, thanks. Make sure your central progression system works. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because it's obvious and oft repeated, and to be honest, it just makes me sad. Azerite armor didn't work. It was a broken-ass system which felt random and confusing and ultimately incredibly unsatisfying. It was designed explicitly to answer specific complaints about Legion's artifact progression, but failed on pretty much every count, and created a gameplay loop whereby new, more powerful gear felt rubbish because half the traits on it, which you already had on your old gear, were unusable until you got more Azerite levels and unlocked them, even though they were the same traits you'd already unlocked on your old gear. And yeah, that clearly sucks. Beyond the obvious, Azerite armor also indirectly made a lot of other parts of the game worse too, which we'll get to later. But the reason I'm not going into too much detail on this particular point is because I don't think I need to, because I think Blizz is very aware of how bad a system it was. They knew this shit was busted. They knew how busted it was even before they put it on the beta, which is exactly why they didn't put it on the beta until like a week or two before the expansion released. In fact, it's quite possible that the reason BfA's patch release schedule was so slow, like I was crying about a minute ago, is precisely because they spent so much time and effort trying to fix their broken central progression system, which they kind of managed with essences, but not really, because Azerite armor is still there and it still sucks. But I'd like to think that this is a lesson they've learned, and certainly the Covenant and Soulbinds system coming in Shadowlands does at least sound like a big improvement, which should avoid most of the problems of Azerite armor. Maybe, hopefully, and even if it doesn't, at least you'll always have your tombstone back piece, right? I really like that tombstone back piece. Forget the Titans, forget them, they're gone. Yes, that's right, not all of these lessons are pure mechanical gameplay things. Some of them are like proper lore stuff too, and I genuinely think that for Shadowlands to reach its full potential and be as good as we need it to be, Blizzard need to dump the Titans for an expansion. Okay, fine, not dump, weave them out of the story for a bit. And there's a couple of reasons for this, and I'll start with the least important first. I'm a bit bored of them. The Titans have been an overarching presence in WoW since forever, but in the last expansion and a half, come on, be honest, it has been Titan overload. What with fighting Titans on Antorus and then rescuing Titans and then them being all like, oh hi, we're those famous Titans you've heard so much about, nice to meet you, and then getting a big Titan sword in our planet, which by the way is also a Titan, and then a whole expansion of gathering Titan blood, killing a Titan cloned old god and then accidentally releasing an old god from a Titan facility, and then finally saving our planet, which I don't know if I mentioned is also a Titan, from getting corrupted by the old god. It's just been one big old Titan of a time, which is fine, really. I like Titans, they're cool, but another expansion of that, and I don't know, I might be ready to stab out my eyes is all. Although guaranteed, if I did, the fork I was using to do the stabbing would turn out to be a Titan artifact, because of course it would, which is actually quite weird, because in the grand scheme of the Azeroth universe, honestly, the Titans aren't even that important, really. They're very insular and small fry compared to the forces of, say, the Light or the Void. They just happen to be disproportionately important to us because we happen to live on one. And here's the thing, in Shadowlands, for the first time, we are going to a place that doesn't have to follow any of those rules. There's no reason why we have to have any new Titan stuff in Shadowlands at all. For once, Blizzard has the chance to tell a completely new story that doesn't have to be connected to anything else that has come before, and I would love to see them let off the leash to do that. It's the same reason that I don't want to see too many cameos from famous dead characters in Shadowlands. I want them to grab this opportunity for new stuff with both hands and run with it. So yeah, okay, obviously the Titan creations Odin and Helya will probably be quite important, but beyond that, I'm hoping Blizzard has the guts to say no to Titans in Shadowlands. Oh, okay, fine. I think it'd be really cool if the world soul of that void-corrupted planet that Sargeras kills in Chronicle was there, all confused and childlike, but otherwise, no Titans, okay? Make the jailer the baddie. BfA is a weird expansion because I genuinely think its story delivery has been the best of any WoW expansion. It's brave, it's gutsy, it deserves endless praise for the detail and patience and risks that it took with the story. But at the same time, the whole arc of BfA was missing something that I really didn't think I'd miss so much. A big bad. We technically didn't know who the big bad was in Legion either, but we were told almost a year in advance that we'd be going to Argus for the final patch. So we had something to aim for, a through line and objective that informed everything else that we did leading up to that. The action never felt aimless because we always knew where we were ending up, and in all its secrecy around the fate of Sylvanas and Saurfang, which again I think was really brave and well done and deserves massive respect and praise, but in hindsight, not having that endpoint established early on did make some of the action in BfA feel a bit aimless at times, especially when the patch cycle was 5 months slower than the previous expansion, but you know, I've already talked about that. I'm over that, that's fine. In hindsight, if Ian had flat out said at the BfA reveal that we would end the expansion with N'Zoth free and corrupting the whole of Azeroth, I genuinely think that knowing that would have made the whole of BfA much more enjoyable. Which brings us to the Jailer. Already one of my favourite things about Shadowlands, precisely because here is a big bad with a big bad plan who really should be all big and bad. And that is really exciting to me, because it makes me think that Blizzard has already learned this lesson. Give us an end point to aim towards in the story, because that's when WoW works best. Wrath had the shadow of Arthas looming over it, Kata had Deathwing, Mists had Garrosh, Wad had the selfie cam, and Legion the Demon HQ. BfA's approach of let's fight this war and see where we end up, although, and I'll say this again because it's true, brave and gutsy and really well done, deserving of much praise, was lacking that kind of focus. So yeah, the Jailer might well turn out to be a narrative red herring or a second fiddle type character or a goodie that we have to save, who knows? But what's important is that right now he works as that focus. We know that we have to stop him and his plan that Sylvanas is helping out with, and that is very promising indeed. Don't have new systems like every patch though. This is a problem that cropped up mostly because Azerite armor was so broken, you suspect, so that every new patch introduced a new progression system in the hope of fixing Azerite armor's mess. And in isolation, those systems are pretty cool. I really like essences as a concept, even if they were a pain to get on your alts. A problem which you'd think would have a pretty obvious answer going forward, but you know, apparently not. And the legendary cloak loop in 8.3 is fun, but as a player, it just gets a bit wearing to have a whole new progression thing going on every major patch on top of the previous systems that were already there from earlier patches. So I'm looking at those Covenants and Shadowlands and I'm thinking, okay, you look nice, you look fun, and seriously, I really like your tombstone back piece, don't know if I mentioned that, that's all very good, well done, but Covenants, you really need to be something that is added to and expanded in the major patches without the need to add whole new systems on top. Manage that, and we are a long way to being friends, Covenants. Do that, we're going to be okay. Change the loot in Mythic Plus. Now when I say this, I don't mean change the way loot is awarded in Mythic Plus, because that's already happening in Shadowlands, which promises players a choice of goodies from their weekly chest. A good change, well done. No, what I mean by this is literally change the loot from one season to the next, because at the moment it's all the same every patch, and that is one of the main reasons that gearing feels unsatisfying in a post-Mythic Plus world. For example, let's say my BIS ring in the whole game is Taliesin's Ring of Rim Revelations, and you get it from the dungeon Taliesin's World. So in 8.0, I ran Taliesin's World countless times to get Taliesin's Ring of Rim Revelations at as high an item level as I could, and eventually it dropped, and I was happy. Then 8.1 came along with all its new awesome shiny gear, but I didn't care about any of that new stuff, because I was back in Taliesin's World trying to get Taliesin's Ring of Rim Revelations to drop all over again, but at 8.1 item levels, and then I'll do the same at 8.2. I don't mind replacing all my gear every season with new, better gear. In fact, I like doing that. That's a central part of the gameplay in an MMORPG. But when I'm putting that much effort into getting the same gear that I already had, but at a higher item level, that sucks. No matter how much Taliesin World is obviously the most fun dungeon of all time, and no matter how much I might love saying Taliesin's Ring of Rim Revelations, and I really do, that feels bad. That needs changing. So what's the answer? I don't actually know. Could Blizzard literally change the loot tables of every dungeon for every new season? Maybe so it all fits the theme of whatever the Mythic Plus affix is every time? I mean, they could, obviously, yeah, but it sounds like an awful lot of work, so I don't know. But I feel like they have to do something, because at the moment, the idea of having to loot Taliesin's Ring of Rim Revelations, or, you know, whatever your favourite piece of dungeon loot may be, it might be a different thing, again every time is really killing the excitement of a new season for a lot of players, and making gearing in a new patch feel a lot more grindy than it should. Don't have another pinker mid. Now don't get me wrong, I think both of the new capital cities in BfA are among the best environments that Blizzard have ever created. Both are stunningly rich and complex, living, breathing environments that are incredible feats of design and implementation. Both Borealis and Dazar Alor are awesome, but they are not equal in terms of use. Boralist's functionality to the player is all conveniently based around one small area in Tradewind's market, meaning that the Scrapper, Mission Table, Profession Trainers, PvP NPCs, Bank, Flight Master, Island Expedition and Warfront guys, portals and anything else you might need are all within a stone's throw of each other. The same cannot be said for the Pinkamid, which is an unrelenting hellscape of stairs and flights and confusion. It is not a good player hub. To prove what I mean, let's do a little experiment. To visit the Bank, Mission Table, Scrapper and Reroll vendor in Boralis takes around 35 seconds, but the same trip in the Pinkamid takes 27 years. And genuinely, although anecdotally, it seems to me that Alliance players have generally enjoyed BfA a little bit more than their Horde cousins, and not just because they won the war, although they totally did, and don't take my word for it.
So Steve, are you saying that Taliesin was right all along?
That's what I heard too. Taliesin was right.
Are you saying that's canon?
Well,
Could you repeat that again? I don't think he heard it.
Thanks, Steve.
I genuinely think that they have enjoyed this expansion more because their capital city is just that much more user-friendly. So here's the lesson, Blizz. When it comes to designing Oribos, the central city for Shadowlands, yes, make it huge and complex and alive. Well, not alive because it's the literal capital city of death, but you know what I mean. But also make sure that it's easy to navigate and that all the useful stuff is near each other. Design it more with the player in mind than the raid that you're going to put there in a later patch, I guess would be the starting point. Have a fun reason to get flying. We have already been told that in Shadowlands, flying will be gained much like we've become used to via the Pathfinder achievement. And I know that generally Pathfinder is about as popular as Mel Gibson at a bar mitzvah, but honestly, I don't really mind it. It makes sense to me to have a checklist of general gameplay achieves to tick off to unlock flight, and in my opinion, it's definitely more interesting than just dropping some gold at max level. So I think where WoD and Legion and BfA have all gone wrong is not that there's not a fun way of unlocking flying, but there's not a fun enough reason to unlock flying. Because at the moment, flight makes the game a whole lot easier and more efficient, especially in modern WoW, full of world quests and very three-dimensional landscapes. You want flying because you're not even slightly playing the game optimally if you don't have flying, and that's fair enough, but I would like a slightly more fun reason to get it than that. Like in Wrath of the Lich King, where you needed flying to literally access a zone. Shadowlands zones are completely disconnected from each other, floating in the swirly death soup. What if, for example, some of these floaty things in Bastion were only reachable when you can fly there? And how about there's actual interesting stuff on those floaty things when you get there, like a new quest hub or a chapter of the story campaign? Or like in Wrath, you could put a whole zone's worth of content behind the ability to fly, so that when I complete my Pathfinder, it's not just a sigh of relief that I've made the game easier for myself, but a gasp of excitement because I've just advanced the game and unlocked new areas. If Blizzard were to do that, then I can guarantee that complaints about having to earn Pathfinder would decrease substantially and no one would ever be upset about flying. No one would ever be upset about flying. Make me a farmer. This is another thing that Azerite almost killed, with Azerite pieces taking up 3 of the usual 6 tier set slots on a permanent basis throughout the expansion. Blizzard's decision to scrap the 2 and 4 piece bonuses that are such an iconic part of the raiding experience was understandable, but in practice the lack of tier sets in BfA has had at least one really unwelcome side effect. People are farming raids much less than they used to, and the raids this expansion have been great. I still think Dazar Alor will go down as one of the all-time classics. Eternal Palace has hidden depths, and Uldia was fine. And yet, I don't think I've killed the final boss of any of these raids more than just a couple of times, despite raiding being my favourite thing to do in the game. It really has surprised me how important having a 4-piece set bonus to complete is in terms of the replayability of a raid. Now, I'm not saying that Blizzard absolutely have to bring back tier sets, although I'd like that. They clearly don't really want to at this stage, but I think BfA has shown that they have to think of something to keep us coming back and killing final bosses, which are, frankly, a massive pain in the ass. Now, the good news is that in Visions of N'Zoth and the Ny'alotha raid, there are promising signs that they might be heading in the right direction. The last 2 bosses of the raid, N'Zoth and N'Zoth, both drop gear, which is 10 item levels higher than anything else in the raid, which means that Mythic N'Zoth and N'Zoth drop items which are the actual highest level stuff in the game. And I think that's great. I think that should probably be the case in all raids throughout Shadowlands, not just the final one at the end of the expansion. Give us a reason to farm those raids, Blizz. Give me something I really want, and I will thank you for it, and so will everyone else. Thank you, we'll say thanks. So what do you guys think? Will Blizzard learn from BfA's mistakes and get it right in Shadowlands? What other lessons do they need to take on board for the next expansion? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us, thank our patrons who make all of our work possible, because seriously, without you guys and your extreme generosity, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin Evitel. Thank you. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Henry Cavill. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evitel. Until next time, cheerio.